Hello there, Steve here in Sydney from the GNOSIS website truebluehealer.com. This video is the GNOSIS take on Charles Darwin, origin of the species, and the wonderful science he founded, evolutionism, in the early 19th century. Now, Charles Darwin launched his book Origin of the Species, which supplied what was a disarmingly simple formula that small incremental changes passed on from one creature to another could result in the best possible fit in an environmental niche. The disarmingly simple explanation seemed to explain so many things in nature, it was quickly taken up by people around the world, certainly in the modern scientific world. There was a few gaps in it, of course, like the Cambrian explosion, why animals could suddenly spring out of seemingly nowhere with no ancestors, but that was just left in the too hard basket. And origin of actual large mega species, large mega animals, didn't seem to pan out somehow. Charles Darwin did propose a virtual tree of life where simple creatures by minor changes could become any other animal given enough time, and that's quite a good idea. It appeals to anyone, and we ran with that for 150 years. Recent advances in computer technology and a thorough understanding of DNA have enabled computer runs simulating evolution, and they've discovered that the original Darwinian concept of so-called vertical evolution doesn't result in optimally produced coding in animals to fit the niche. These recent researchers have pointed to much evidence, overwhelming evidence in fact, that there's been at least two other mechanisms going on changing the shape of animals over hundreds of millions of years. Namely, horizontal gene transfer by microorganisms of all things, stealing genes from plants, inserting them in insects and animals, and spreading the same functional genes through many different species, giving them an apparently common ancestry which they may not have had at all. So the Darwinian tree of life, which was simply a useful explanatory tool, has been quietly dispensed with, and it's now been realised there's likely to be more surprises in the way animals change over hundreds of millions of years. The moral of the story is that when you're very cosy and comfortable and think you know it all, there could be something going on you're totally oblivious to. We can forgive Darwin for not knowing about horizontal gene transfer by microorganisms. He just didn't have the knowledge of technology. But certainly people in the 20th century should have known better, and they have been criticised for complacency, intellectual complacency, laziness, thinking they know it all, they can stop thinking. Which means that if you mix vertical gene transfer through normal breeding and horizontal gene transfer by microorganisms, you get a much more satisfying explanation for how animals evolve over hundreds of millions of years. Therein lies the rub, because you've got to ask, what's the next thing? What might it be that we can't see at the moment? This is dramatic evidence that we all have selective blindness, every one of us. An important thing raised in this discovery, these observations about these microorganisms that could pick up and drop DNA wherever they please in any creature they happen to be infecting, is that we have to stop thinking that animals are all isolated from each other and we're all individual units walking about. We simply can't escape the microorganisms that can infect us. So that's been crippling our thinking for 150 years, the thinking that everything is disconnected. That's an important sort of upshot of this latest explanation from Illinois. We must very well welcome these breakthroughs in evolutionary understanding of where we came from, what we are, and where we could be going. The moral of the story is still a very strong one, that how psychologically, intellectually blind we can all be. It's part of our training, isn't it? We grow up in what era, we believe certain things. And now I'm going to talk about something that Charles Darwin avoided with the 40-foot pole, and that is consciousness. That's something that was just left out of physical evolution. It concentrates on the shape of the physical shape of animals. So if you're a devotee of the scientific method, you're an evidence-based thinker, you admire Charles Darwin and an evolutionary theory getting ever more beautiful and more complex, I'm going to give you a challenge to prove and show to you that there's something you're totally unaware of inside the evolution, and it involves you. Now, something you have missed completely, because you've probably been studying animals and creatures and birds all your life, and it's a wonderful thing to do. Can't sort of criticize that. But you can get physical evidence in just 20 minutes at a website, physical evidence that there is a shadow intelligence within yourself, a second intelligence that sits there as a silent partner, waiting for you to wake up. It's kind of a gestational thing. It's been watching you grow, and it wants you to wake up very soon. And it will give you physical evidence that's in your personal physicality in 20 minutes at a website, truebluehealer.com. If you want to understand evolution more, in particular your personal evolution, your personal maturation, go to truebluehealer.com. It takes only 20 minutes. It's already tested in 10 countries. I'm saying this with the confidence of being in this state of consciousness myself for quite a few years, and I know many, many other people are, and it was concealed from myself also, just the way horizontal gene transfer was concealed from the best scientists in the world for nearly 150 years, okay? So a lot of things can go on outside your vision, outside your attention span, and they are there. They're definitely there. So let me tell you, you have an internal shadow intelligence that's waiting for you to mature, to grow up, to wake up as to its presence. And it will make itself available to you with physical signals in your personal physicality at truebluehealer.com. Within 7 days, you'll get some vivid messaging dreams, which will kind of emphasize your consciousness and what it really is. You'll begin to map out your consciousness in a way that Charles Darwin never dreamed of. It's as revolutionary as horizontal gene transfer. And it takes only 20 minutes of your time. It is free, and it is applauded by everyone who's been to the website. So can I see you there at truebluehealer.com? Steve here in Sydney. Can I just say one more thing to you? It's a common phrase, and it's often true. It's certainly said about evolution, that the evidence for evolution is absolutely overwhelming. Well, that also applies to the unknown thing you're about to discover, this second intelligence, this shadow intelligence within yourself that's always been there. Waking up to its presence is part of your natural life cycle. Okay? The evidence is overwhelming. It's already tested in 10 countries, so I'll see you there at truebluehealer.com.